Hi everyone. This video will be a walkthrough of how to connect to Nash Community College's NetLab's system from an off-campus or on-campus computer. Electronic copies of these instructions will also be provided to you by your instructor, as well as a printed copy if you need one. Now, any web browser is fine to use. For this example, we're going to be using Mozilla Firefox. Also, be sure to check to make sure Java is up to date to its most current version on your computer before starting these instructions. Java is free and available from their website. If you just Google Java, their website will come up, and make sure that your version is the most up-to-date version before trying to connect to NetLabs. So again, Mozilla Firefox will be used for this example. Up there in the URL bar, we're going to point our computer to 152.27.32.125. Again, that's 152.27.32.125. You don't need any www prefixes or anything. You just point to that specific address and hit enter if you are on an off-campus computer or an off-campus network not associated with Nash Community College. Now, if you are on campus, then you'll want to use 172.23.254.15. Again, that's 172.23.254.15 if you are on Nash Community College's network or on a on-campus computer. Now, you'll be presented with the login screen at NetLabs, and also you can use, I forgot one browser there, Safari will work as well. So you can do this from a Mac computer. The username here that you'll be using will be the exact same as your Moodle username. So whatever you use to log into for Moodle for your username will be replicated here. I'm just going to use a test student account, student K, for this example. And everyone's initial password will always be the same, which is NCC reset. All lowercase letters. Again, that's all lowercase letters. NCCRESET. NCC reset, all lowercase. And you're going to click login. Now, for the first login, it is going to prompt you to change your password. So I would choose something that you can easily remember. Be sure to write this down as well. Now, your instructor or your NetLabs administrator can reset your account if you get locked out, but please make sure you write it down now as you're walking through these steps. You're going to click OK, and the password requirements are pretty lenient. Now you're going to provide an email address. I would recommend providing your Nash Community College student email address here. You can leave it blank, but again, it would help with resetting your password and getting up-to-date information if NetLabs is ever going to be down for maintenance on Nash Community College's campus. So we click OK. And your time zone information is going to pop up here. Again, most likely the Eastern time zone is okay, but you can change that if you're in a different one. The display format of the calendar and clock, if you are used to a 12-hour clock, then you can use that, or if you are more similar to military time, you can choose the 24-hour clock, as well as the days of the week for the calendar view, which you'll see a little bit later. Click OK once you are done changing those settings. And finally, this you will be prompted for every time you log in, which is the remote access test. If you aren't prompted with it, it may still remember your previous settings if you log in soon enough between logins. But here you want to make sure you do not skip this step. You want to start the remote access test. And this is where your Java comes into play for the very first time and making sure that's up to date. This ensures this test, and you want to open it with the Java. Do not save it. Make sure you open it. And this is going to make sure you can connect to NetLabs on our campus from your home computer or wherever you may be to connect to NetLabs. If you get an error here, make sure that you look at your firewall settings. A lot of times if you have some hardened firewall settings, in addition to, or, you customize your firewall, make sure that you look at those and try to be a little more lenient. But if you do get the thank you message with a smiley face, then you are all good to go here. And again, that just ensures that you're able to connect before you start scheduling. All right, now when you're presented to this page, and again, most of those steps there, except for the remote access test, will not appear ever again. So we're going to click on Scheduler when you're ready to schedule a lab, and you'll be presented with the classes you're in. So all of the classes that use NetLabs that you're enrolled in at Nash Community College will be listed here. We're going to use the Cisco class Net 225 for this example. And you can reserve labs with other people at the same time if you guys want to work in a team. It does say reserve lab time for your team, and everybody in our class happens to be in the same team. Some other classes may be divided out into teams already. I'm just going to click reserve lab time for yourself. So you'll be working on it alone. And then you'll see a long list of labs. Now this is for Net 225 in the Cisco Academy. All of our labs actually match up one-to-one for the curriculum in the Cisco Networking Academy. So in Chapter 2 here, you see it says 2.1.1.6. This is in Chapter 2, dealing with basic switch connectivity. All the way down here in Chapter 11, you see that it covers DHCP and NAT. So those are the topics we cover there in chapters 10 and 11. So it matches up. Obviously, you'll want to make sure that you're following, the labs that your instructor had you notes that you complete, or if you're just practicing a topic, you can see the name of the lab. And then finally, all the way down here at the bottom, there is a routing and switching essential skills assessment for Net 225, which kind of is a practice exam that incorporates all of the different topics throughout the whole semester. So you can do any of those. And you see it says up to 4 hours here. You can reserve up to 4 hours. So let's just click a basic one here, configuring basic switch settings. You click the little arrow. And now we're going to be presented with the calendar view. Now the red line, if you actually click on that red line, it will be reserved at the time you currently, the currently listed time. You see here that we've got 3 pods so that you can have 3 sessions running, or 3 different students connected to NetLabs at one time. And you're basically just looking for the open section. Here you see everything is free. So for pod 1 over here, I'm going to click on the red line to reserve it for right now. If you get the time pass, it's kind of tricky to kind of click right on that red line. All right, and you see that the time should say now here if you did it correctly. All right, and then you can reserve this up to 4 hours at a time. So right now it is 12:30 p.m. So I'm just going to reserve it through, let's say 3 o'clock. Okay, so 3 p.m. here. All right, so it says my duration is 2 hours and 27 minutes. Please note that whatever time you reserve it for, 10 minutes of that will be used for cleanup. So with 10 minutes left to go, your lab will actually start to shut down. So always be sure of that, to note that. Here you can load the default configs for the exercise so that everything is ready to go for you. If this is your first time working on a lab, that's what you want to do. If you do save your configurations, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment, you would want to choose restore configs from last reservations. Or if you just want nothing there, then you can load it clean. But because this lab probably has some stuff already set for us, we're going to load the default configs for the exercise and click OK. All right, and you can click I'm done. Obviously, you can make reservations for future times. If you know you're going to be working on it tonight and you want to go ahead and reserve that before somebody else does, that's fine. Remember, you do have 3 different pods available for you to reserve on, so take advantage of that. And just be mindful and courteous of your fellow classmates that you don't just take up all the available time on all the pods. Be courteous and, work on your labs accordingly. Now, once you click done, if you reserved it for a future time, your lab will come up here in this section, but it will not allow you to enter it. Okay, you'll get a little reservation ID. When your lab is ready and your time comes up, you can click on this gray bar that says enter lab. So we're going to enter it. And again, you will be presented with that one specific lab assignment that we clicked on. And it may take a moment to start your equipment pod. Just be patient. All right, now we're presented with a topology that looks very similar to NetLabs if you're used to using that. You can click on Show Lab Content and it will open up a PDF of the instructions that you can download, save to your computer, print out so that you can complete the lab assignment. These are the instructions for completing this particular lab assignment. Now, this topology here is clickable, and I'll show you that in a moment. Under action, with each lab, you do get a series of devices here: 3 virtual PCs, ASA firewall, 3 switches, and 3 routers. You don't have to worry about that. For this topology in this lab, we're actually only configuring a PC connected to a switch, and all this is virtual, so don't worry about everything. Note in here in the red text, the physical cable connections have already also been made, so you don't need to bother with that. The status of each device, you'll see whether it's booting or if it's online. When you get done with your lab, you can save, or if you're almost finished, or maybe not quite, or something comes up, you want to start where you stopped off last. You can save it, and you notice in your topology, I've got S1 connected to PCA here. So in the save, you might want to save S1 settings. So you can save it, and it will actually go to a config folder in NetLab, so you don't have to worry about having a flash drive or anything. It will save it in the NetLab system under your student account for you, so that in the future, if you want to come back and work on this lab, if you didn't finish it, instead of at that spot where it said load default configs, you could put load previous configs and point it to that file, and boom, it'll load everything in there for you. It's like saving your configs for you. Here, the default passwords for all of your devices for the console line is Cisco, and the default enable secret password is class. So that will always be standard if you load it with the defaults. Now again, if you load your preset stuff from a previous lab, maybe they have you change the console or the secret password, then you'll need to go with that, whatever you changed it to. And here under the load one, you can load those settings as well. And then finally, under exercise, you can switch back and forth in your 3 hours, 4 hours, however long you reserved it between labs. So if you get done with the 2.1.1.61 and you want to move on to another one, you would just click on 3.3.2.2 and click change exercise, and it'll start loading that one for you as well. You click yes, and voila, you are presented with a new topology, new connection, new lab. So again, there are all different types of labs you can switch back and forth into. Just make sure you note the number of the lab and the name. And again, if you do show lab content, this is a, let me close this one. This is a new lab for you implementing VLAN security. So again, you can print that or save that so you can view it. Now, each one of these devices is clickable again, just like in Packet Tracer. So if I wanted to need it to access PCA, I click on it, click open with Java like we did before, and the remote PC viewer pops up, and you'll see, voila, here I've got PCA, and there's a big number on each one, or sorry, big name up here in the right hand corner. I'll show you. PCB looks pretty similar, but it has PCB in the top right hand corner here. All right, so make sure you note that all the icons that are functional. You cannot access the internet outside of this lab, so if you click on Firefox here, it will not take you anywhere else. And then like switch 1, if you need to configure that, you click on switch 1 and it loads the CLI terminal for you, and you can type in your commands. It's just doing some basic configurations for you automatically. I'm not typing that at that moment, and it's still initializing, but when you get ready, you can type in, enable, config t, show run, any commands that you need it to. Now, when you are done with this, again, and you see it's still initializing, and again, I'm not typing any of this. This is just all default stuff that happens every time it boots up in NetLabs. And when you finally get done with your lab, all right, you can click the I'm done button, and it will end your lab assignment. So please make sure you're courteous of your other classmates when you are done. And that completes our tutorial.